Good morning. Today we will be discussing future tenses. So, for the first section of the lesson, I will be dedicating it to questions. So, I will be asking a few questions on what you have previously learned and if you are able to explain them to me. And then we will be moving on to future tenses, what future tenses are, and the types that you get and how you should use them, right? Then you will be, and then we will have another discussion session where you can ask me think about things that you're unsure about or comment on what you have found interesting or learned. And then lastly, I will provide you with an activity. And this is just to test your understanding of future tenses. So now we will be moving into the question section, right? So I want you to look at the three pictures and then I want you to answer the question, do you remember the three tenses that exist, right? And then after you have answered that question, I want you to move on to question 2, which is, can you explain the two tenses that you have already done and learned? So now that we have established that you understand there are three types of tenses, future, past, and present, and that you do understand how to use past and present, let's move on to future tense, right? So there are three types of future tenses. You have future simple, future continuous, and then future perfect. So one thing to focus on or to keep in mind when constructing or when identifying if a sentence is, future simple or future continuous or future perfect is by looking if the sentence is within the future tense, by focusing on words such as shall or will or won't or be going to. That's how you can identify if it's future. And then by also focusing on the verb, the action, or as we know them, doing words, right? So when focusing on future simple tense, right, I want you to look at the example sentence. And it states that I shall drive to the cabin. So we can see the sentence is within future tense, right? Because if you look at shall, you can see sentence as future. But when you focus on the verb drive, you can see the action is very general. It's something that happens a lot. You might have done the activity, or you might have experienced the activity, or you might have seen the activity happen. So that's how you can identify if something is simple tense, no? And if it let's say it was eating, right? Then you can also say it's simple tense because it happens generally. Then the next one is future continuous tense. So when looking at the example, I shall be driving to the cabin, you can see that the sentence is within the future by focusing on the word shall be and the ing that is connected to the verb. So when focusing on the verb, you can then see that the action happening within the sentence is still happening. So it's ongoing, it's non-stop movement, right? So that is how you can identify if a sentence is continuous, future continuous, right? And then for future perfect, we can see the example is within the future tense by focusing on the word shall, and then by looking at the verb have driven, right? You can see that the action has already happened. So that makes this sentence then future perfect tense. Okay. So two of the most common words used within future tenses are will and won't and be going to. So lots of people use these terms or statements within the wrong sentences. So one way you can, or a few ways you can identify when you should when you should use will and when you should use be going to is by focusing on certain aspects. And then this picture here will identify the certain aspects or times that you should use will or be going to. So first let's focus on the left side, will or won't plus information. Okay, so when a decision is happening spontaneously, let's look at the example. It states that it's too hot, I'll open the window now, or I'll open the window. So within this sentence or this example, you can see that there was no planning to open the window. There was no sitting for an hour and then thinking I'm going to stand up and open the video. It happened spontaneously. The person was hot and then they opened the window. The second time you should use will or won't is when you're offering something, right? Or you are offered something. So in the example, you can see, don't worry, I'll help you do it. That's when you will use will. Another time you will use it is when you're promising something or predicting something, right? So promising something, I will do it, I won't do it, I promise you I won't be at class today. And then for prediction is when you thinking, or sorry, when you're predicting that something will happen, you will use will, right? I think the weather will be much. I think I will pass my exam, and so on. And then lastly, it's when you are using or when there is a conditional within a sentence. If I pass the exam, my parents will give me a mobile phone, right? And then for the right hand side, we will be discussing be going to. So when you're previously planning an activity, or you can see that there was previous planning within the sentence, you will use be going to or are going to, right? Or going to. So in the example, you can see the hotel is already booked. So you see previous planning. So then you will insert, we are going to leave tomorrow, right? So going to. So the next time you will use it is when there's evidence or signs of something. So look at those black clouds, that's the sign, and then it's going to rain. Going to, sign or evidence, okay? And then whenever you want to use going to or gonna, you're going to use be going to or going to. So now that we have discussed when to use will and going to, we will further that into our future tenses. So for future simple tense, when using will in a positive sentence, you will use your subject, or you will place your subject, will plus your verb. Within a negative sentence, it will be your subject will not plus your verb, or your subject won't plus verb. And then within a question sentence, it will be will, your subject, and then plus your verb and question mark. Remember, within a question sentence, use a question mark. Okay? Then when you are using simple future tense, but you have to use going to, you will use your subject is, am, or are plus going to plus your verb. And when it's negative, it's subject, am, is, or are not going to plus your verb. Right? And then for your question sentence, it's am, is, or are plus going to plus your verb and question mark. So now we'll be doing future continuous sentences and how you should structure them, right? So for a positive sentence, it will be your subject plus will be, your verb in first form, ing, plus your object, right? Then negative subject, he or she will not be your verb visiting or visit plus ing, so visiting and then object, right? So positive question, it's will plus your subject plus be your verb in first form plus ing, and remember your question mark. For negative sentence, it will be will your subject not be your verb in first form ing plus your object, and remember your question mark. So I'm going to do a few examples for you just so you understand how you should use these structures. Okay, so for positive sentence, let's say I will be visit, because that's my verb in first form, and then add ing, so I will be visiting my house this weekend, so object, right? Then for negative, it will be subject, I will not be visit, because it's my verb in first form, plus ing, I will not be visiting the dog house, the object. Yeah. For a positive question, will I be visit, because the verb in first form plus ing, so will I be visiting question mark. Then for negative question, it will be will I not be visiting the doghouse question mark. Then lastly, for future perfect tense, right? For a positive sentence, it will be your subject plus will or shall have, and then your third form, your verb in third form, and then your object. An example they showed or shared is she, which is the subject, will have played in, so it's your verb in third form, and then your object, which is hockey. She will have played hockey. For negative sentence, it will be your subject plus will or shall not have, your third form of your verb, and then your object. So she, which is your subject, will not have played, because it's played or play in third form, and then your object, which is hockey. She will not have played hockey. And then for a question, it's will or shall plus your subject plus have plus your third form verb plus your object, and remember a question mark. So will, and then she, which is your subject, have, and then played, because it's play in third form, and then your object, which is hockey, and then a question mark. Now we will quickly play a 4 minutes video just to ensure that you guys are clear on how to structure your sentences, and what to look out for. So now we are moving to our question session or discussion session. So if you want to share something that you found interesting, or that you learned that was new to you for the first time, please share that. If there's something that you struggle with, like one of the tenses maybe, or unsure how to structure them, or you are unsure of what affects what type of future tense it is, ask your questions now. It is very important.